Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's event. Today, we are hosting you on this membership open day or members open day, a platform that we've created to create awareness on some of the processes and procedures at the Institute in terms of operations. And today, mostly, we are looking at our mentorship activities and our mentorship structure and framework. My name is Evelyne, and we're very glad that you've joined us. And I can see that the numbers are growing. So without getting much into it, allow me to introduce the topic today, where we'll be looking at developing the next generation of global arbitration leaders, CIArb Kenya Mentorship and Professional Development Framework. What we aim to achieve with today's event is to, number one, create awareness on the structure of the mentorship program that we have here at the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, answer any questions as regards to if you're one seeking for mentorship or if you're one of the mentors, what is your expectations? What are your obligations? What is it that you need to do? We'll also be looking at the mentorship framework on a global scale in terms of why is it important and why is CIArb Kenya committed to ensure that we promote mentorship as a platform for professional development. Now, we're joined in by a panel from here, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. We're joined by two of our directors, key directors in terms of the role they play in the mentorship program. Number one being David Onsare, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Your audio is on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. I just seen a message saying that my audio is on mute. I just wanted to clarify that. So we're joined in by David Onsare. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He also sits as a director in our board and plays a very critical role, both as chair of the young members group, that is our members who are below 40, as well as the chair and convener of education and membership committee here at the Institute. David, maybe you can say something. David, if you can hear me, you're muted. All right. As Mr. Onsare is joining us, or I'm not so sure exactly what's happening. We're also joined by Mwalimu Nyagah Kithinji. He's a QS and an advocate, also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He's also one of our directors and the chair and convener of the legal subcommittee, and was pivotal in ensuring that the logbook that we'll be launching today, which is the structured platform within which we hope that we can be able to adapt and use in our mentorship program, was very keen on coming up with it and has been one of our facilitators in the mentorship induction training since its inception in 2021. So Mwalimu Kithinji, karibu, just say hi so that people can get to know who you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you've been told, my name is Nyagah Kithinji, and I am glad to be here today so that all of us can go through an understanding of mentorship in terms of answering a few questions which have to do with mentorship. And at the end of this seminar, we will have discussed why mentorship, how mentorship, when mentorship, where mentorship. If we answer those four questions, we will have done well. And so just make a checklist because we have not structured this webinar in terms of those 4 questions. It is a free seminar of speaking of the cuff. But when you finally structure that knowledge, it should fall into those boxes. Why, how, when, where. And there's another one for lawyers. Who? You remember the several wives and a husband? This is going to answer those questions. And so please, as we go through it, try to fill those gaps, be structuring it for us, because for us, we want to make it free and free-flowing. Free-flowing. Thank you very much. See you.
Right. Thank you, Molim. And inadvertently, you've also set the standard or set the stage as to what we expect from this event. Just a few housekeeping aspects. This being an interactive session, we ask you, should you have any questions or comments as we go along, please feel free to put that on the chat function, and then we'll address it. We'll try as much as possible to answer as we go along. However, towards the end of the presentations or towards the end of what we have prepared for you, we've had time set aside for plenary, and you can have that discussion. So without further ado, allow me to invite Mwalimu Nyagah Kithinji to start us off and set the stage or give us the context as to why this particular webinar, and most importantly, what the mentorship is aimed to achieve. Mwalimu, karibu.
Asante sana. Good afternoon again, everybody. Like I have already hinted, we do not have a structure in terms of subtopics to present. We want it to be free-flowing. And in that spirit, I'll begin by telling you why it is important to do mentorship in matters arbitration, in matters mediation, in matters adjudication, and actually in matters of every nature which make a difference and which are supposed to be of service to people and to business and even to self. We begin with a mind which is formed in certain ways. When you go to school, you learn arithmetic and you learn some literacy, and then that is only a stepping stone to greater things. You go to a higher school, you learn calculus and the theories and whatnot, and the formula. And then you go to work and you find that very little of that works at the place of work, and you have to keep learning. So mentorship is a way of ensuring continuous learning. But mentorship in the sense that it is done at the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators raises a few questions, because it is done to members who have qualified in various ways. One, they are professionals, and therefore they should know what they are doing. Secondly, they have also taken courses in whichever path they are taking, whether it is arbitration, whether it is mediation or adjudication, or all of them. They have taken courses, they have done examinations, and they passed those examinations, and therefore they are expected to know. And so the question why is answered in its broader sense. Why should you then want to be taught or to teach? For the mentees, Why would you want to be mentored? In other words, taught, while you already know? For mentors, why would you want to have students who already know what they are doing? What is your value? And so I can then go into answering the question, why? It is necessary to get mentorship, and I will, in this talk, confine myself to arbitration, but what goes for arbitration goes for mediation, it goes for adjudication, and like I have said before, it goes for many other aspects of life and professional practice. Why it is necessary to go through mentorship is that when you do your credentialed knowledge, and you go through courses and you get credentials, you have a good understanding of the theory of how things are done. And when you go to driving school, you do what is called the table. Of course, you read the theory. I read the car driving in 2 weeks. And then you are told where the clutch is, and for us those days we knew where the gear was and we knew how to balance in our minds. But then the day you go to the road, everything is Greek. Nothing seems to work. You see, because the conversion from credentials to operational competence requires further guidance. The conversion from a driving theorist to a rally driver requires a lot of other lessons. And so it is necessary to be mentored as an arbitrator so that you gain operational competence, because arbitration as an arbitrator is really akin to being in the driver's seat. And this vehicle that you're driving is carrying people's aspirations, people's rights, people's futures, the future of business. And if this vehicle is not driven well, it can lead to loss of life, loss of business, loss of respect. And so as you step up to take the driver's seat, you need to have certain operational, and I'll keep insisting on this operational competence, so that you guide the process well, and you also keep your face. Remember, when you are the driver and there's a car accident, you also get hurt or you also die. There are many people who have decided they would not do arbitration because, although they are fellows of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, they will not do arbitration because they do not want to lose face before parties and before lawyers. So when you get mentored in the way of running the arbitration process, you gain confidence, which comes out of observation. Remember, again, we learn more through observation and also through mimicking. In fact, everything that we've learned up to where we are now as adults has come through mimicking. Even language. We just mimic how adults speak when we are kids, and then we become fluent in the language. Mentorship is supposed to be hands-on. I don't want to go to how, but just to answer why, it is because you'll be able to have the hands-on experience. You'll be able to know what works and what does not work. Why then would you require more than one mentor? Because that will be a requirement before you are empaneled to do matters. You require more than one mentor because every case, every matter before an arbitrator comes with its nuances, with its operational difficulties, with challenges. It comes with parties who see life differently. It comes with representatives, party representatives who have different styles. And it is before an arbitrator who has a style, which could also be among hundreds of other arbitrators who have different styles. So it will be necessary to have exposure to a number of arbitrators, a number of parties, a number of approaches, a number of challenges, so that you can be said to have obtained the necessary, again, that word, operational competence to handle 70% of the challenges that you face. Now, why you do mentorship is so that you can have this competence. Does it mean that after you have done mentorship, you are cut and dried and you are good to go and you'll never have a challenge in arbitration? No. The question of continuous professional development also obtains. It is relevant in arbitration, and we keep learning. For arbitrators who have done it for many years, every matter is a different experience. And so when you go through mentorship by people who have gone through various experiences, and then you take mentorship seriously, and we talk about, then you'll be able to benefit and you'll be able to develop a style by taking what works and understanding what works in different situations, because mentorship is basically, primarily, exposure to the real thing happening, Again, at how we should be able to talk about the mindset that a mentee should bring into mentorship so that the mentorship becomes productive. Having said that, so that I don't go very far, I'll invite my colleague, David Onsare, to say something. And David, if you can say something that I might not have said about why, and then you handle the how, I think we'll be moving well. If we are able to go through these five, the 4 W's and the four wives and husband, we will then open the floor for interaction so that anything else which is not covered by these 4 W's and H can also be covered. Remember, this webinar has come to meet your needs. We already know what we are saying. Thank you. David Onsare, Wakili, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mwalimu, for setting the stage. No one would have done it better than you have. Part of my presentation also covers the why aspect. I think I'll pick it up from there. I was assigned the task of addressing you today on building the next generation of arbitration leaders. I'm not sure if it is because of my constituents or because of the role I handle at the Institute. Be as it may, good afternoon once more. I didn't have an opportunity to say hi earlier on. I had connectivity challenges. So whether you're joining us from Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, or logging in from outside our jurisdiction altogether, karibu sana. Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, which is genuinely global, and today's conversation sits squarely within that global mission. So I want to start with a question. Allow me to. A real one, not a rhetorical one. Mwalimu has made reference to driving school and the board. Quite relatable. Here's my question. How many of you remember the first time you sat in an arbitration room or even just read your first arbitration rules? Then you thought, I understand the theory, but I have absolutely no idea what happens next in practice. I know it's relatable to most of us. For me personally, I remember it vividly, very clearly. I had qualified from the institute. I had read the key texts. I understood the framework. But walking into actual practice felt like arriving, when you visit a foreign city, you arrive in a city you had only ever studied in a map. You don't have no idea left and right, how traffic moves. You don't know the street names. That gap between knowing and doing, which Mwalimu captured pretty well, is the gap this program exists to close. And it is a gap that the Institute is uniquely positioned to address or to close. I'll just add on to what Mwalimu mentioned about the why aspect, and I'll go further and say why now. So the Institute is not simply a credentialing body. It is a professional home for most of us as arbitrators. When you join the Institute, whether as an associate, a member, or a fellow, or even a chartered arbitrator, you enter a community. The community carries institutional knowledge accumulated over more than a century of dispute resolution practice. The question we as CIArb Kenya, we're asking today is, how do we make that knowledge accessible in a structured way and to every member who needs it? Okay, how do we make that knowledge accessible in a structured way to every member who needs it? So arbitration as a profession has changed enormously, even in the last 10 years. Cases are more complex. We have developed jurisprudence in the area, and so far as Kenya is concerned, timelines are tighter. Parties arrive at arbitration with sophisticated expectations. They're not using the process as a last resort. They choose it deliberately as the appropriate dispute resolution mechanism. And expect the practitioners who sit in their tribunals to reflect international standards of competence, independence, and efficiency. So Kenya sits at a very interesting position in this story that I have tried to put together. We have a solid Arbitration Act. We have Nairobi as a seat, which is gaining recognition. We have practitioners who hold CIArb credentials at all 3 levels, let's say 4 levels, including chartered arbitrators. We produce lawyers, we produce engineers, we produce accountants, we produce surveyors who are technically equipped to become excellent arbitrators. And yet, if you speak honestly to our members and the guys who are joining us, the younger members, what you constantly hear is this: I have the qualification, but I cannot get onto a tribunal. I have the credentials, but not the case experience. I attend the conferences, but I am not in the rooms where matters are actually allocated. So this is not a unique problem, 1. It is not a talent problem, 2. It is a structural problem, in my opinion. And the only thing that has ever reliably addressed structural pipeline problems in the legal and dispute resolution space is, again, intentional and organized mentorship. Keyword here is organized. So when I say intentional, I mean something precise, not a senior practitioner vaguely agreeing to be available, okay? Senior, mentor, readily agreeing to be available. Not a WhatsApp group for young arbitrators, not a WhatsApp group for members who are just joining us, but a structured, documented, accountable relationship where learning happens on a defined timeline, okay? We are keeping tabs from when you started to how you're developing. So this defined timeline is recorded face by face and is evaluated by someone whose professional reputation stands behind the assessment. So when we get to that point, we ask ourselves again to address this timeline and to come up with this intentional and structured mentorship. What are the real challenges the young practitioners face. I'll be direct about what practitioners actually encounter, because young, in this case, does not mean age. Young meaning time spent in the practice, okay? So these young practitioners, I'll be direct about what challenges they face, because if we design the program around the challenges we imagine they have, we will build something that does not serve them. The first challenge is access to real proceedings. Arbitration is confidential in nature. Hearings are not public. A practitioner can qualify with the CIArb qualifications and spend years without even observing an actual arbitration from start to finish. They read about it, they study cases, they never see the process live. The second challenge is what I call the credibility threshold. Most appointment mechanisms, whether institutional appointments or party appointed, that is ad hoc, reward existing experience. But you cannot get experience again without appointment. And you cannot get appointments without experience. Is it an oxymoron? Something we'll debate later. That loop is self-reinforcing and it works against new entrants almost by design. Okay, experience, appointments, experience. The third challenge is practical knowledge that no examination tests. How do you draft procedural directions, order for directions that will actually comply with? How do you manage a hearing when counsel on one side is being obstructive? How do you write an award that is not only legally sound, but will survive scrutiny at the setting aside stage? These things are not in the textbooks. These are learned by watching, by making mistakes under supervision, and by being debriefed honestly by someone who has been through it. Fourth, and I think this is one of the most underestimated challenges, is the psychological dimension of early practice. Arbitration can be isolating. Unlike litigation, where you have colleagues around you, a court registry, and a visible bench, an arbitrator operates with a great deal of independence and responsibility. That independence is exactly what makes the role attractive. It is also what makes early practice very difficult without guidance. Having a mentor who you can call after a difficult hearing, not just someone on the other end of an email, changes the experience completely. None of these challenges are insurmountable. All of them are solvable, but they require a structured institutional response, not the goodwill alone, and that is why we're here. So how has the Institute, in this case, CIArb Kenya's mentorship, bridges these gaps? The gaps I've mentioned four generally. I want to talk about this program, what this program actually does concretely, because I think we sometimes speak about mentorship in aspirational terms. That makes it sound wonderful, but do not tell anyone what will actually happen, what is the expectation and what you expect to see at that point. Let me start with a feature of this program that I believe is its most significant design decision. For every matter where CIArb Kenya appoints an arbitrator, the Institute will assign a mentee to the appointed arbitrator. Think about what that means in practice. It means the mentorship is not voluntary. It is in the sense of an opt-in if you feel like it. It is embedded in the appointment process itself. Every appointment becomes a mentorship opportunity. Every arbitrator who accepts an appointment from the Institute accepts alongside it a professional responsibility to develop the next practitioner. This is very significant for a couple of reasons. One, it solves access problem directly. The mentee does not need to hope that a senior practitioner happens to take an interest in them. The Institute creates the relationship structurally. The access comes with the appointment. Second is it addresses the credibility threshold. A mentee who has observed multiple CIArb appointed proceedings, documented, of course, in the logbook, signed off by the mentor, has a verifiable record of real experience. That record exists independently of whether they personally know the right people, it is institutional, and it is portable. Third, also it creates accountability on both sides, and also it assures us a tacit knowledge, how knowledge is shared between the mentor and the mentee. It also builds the kind of confidence, not the kind based on reassurance, the kind based on having been tested in a real situation, having received honest feedback, and having done it again better. That is a confidence that holds in a difficult hearing. So the Institute has global identity. Sorry. This is not a marketing line. It is the actual architecture of the organization. When you hold membership, you are part of the same professional body. London, Singapore, Sydney, Lagos, Dubai, New York, you name it. The qualification is common language, and that creates possibilities that a pure national professional body simply cannot offer. Just to close. So the mentorship program sits within the global architecture, but we're trying to find a way of using that mentorship program to deal with the challenges we've mentioned, but going further than what we usually have in the process, that is the letter of recommendation confirming that you served as a mentee and you participated throughout the proceedings. We are trying to come up with, as I mentioned, intentional and structured mentorship where there would be a logbook here that you're expected to fill throughout the activities you've carried out. Have you drafted a procedural order? Did you attend the preliminary meeting? What did you learn from the preliminary meeting? What is the outcome of the preliminary meeting? Was there an interim application? Did you handle it? What was it about? How was it done? You are learning firsthand here. We don't expect to come in, sit back, quietly listen, the award is delivered, then you leave. No. We're expecting you to be actively in participation, and we expect the proof of that active participation to go beyond the letter of recommendation. So this brings me to this point. If you're a senior member of the Institute, chartered arbitrator, a fellow, an experienced arbitrator with a functioning practice, I want to ask you to ask something to you, or ask something of you directly. When CIArb appoints you to a matter, take the mentorship obligation seriously. The person assigned to you is not an observer, as I mentioned, to sit there quietly and leave. They are developing professionals for whom this case is a formative experience. The logbook, which we will touch on later, is your accountability mechanism. Use it properly. And for the young members, young practitioners, if you have just passed your exams, if you are recently admitted to the role, if you're wondering what pathways from qualification to practice actually look like, I want to say something clearly. The CIArb credential is the entry point, not the destination. What builds a practice is what comes after the qualification. The hearings you observe, the documents you draft under supervision, the feedback you receive, and how seriously you act on it. The program is designed to give you that experience in a structured, documented, and accountable way. Use it, engage with it fully, not as a box to tick, but as a career investment. Thank you very much. Mwalimu, I hope I added to what you had addressed earlier.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. We will progress the discussion, and what I would like to come in with more on how, so that we handle that very important part more conclusively. David Onsare has talked about the structure and the fact that we are introducing a logbook so that it guides that structuring. And when you come into mentorship, you come with a knowledge of what you are expected to learn. I'll therefore now look at it from a general point of view so that you see the environment within which this structure operates. Mentorship is not a word that has come with the arbitration. Mentorship has existed for a very long time. When you learn about the spiritual masters of old, they always say that they learned under the feet of their masters, you know. And so those who seek refinement will always look for mentors. So it is not something that, the Chartered Institute has brought in because of anything that is so unique about it. It is basically adopting a method of refinement that has been there for a long time, so that it is able to fast track young practitioners into mastery. Now, so coming to that question of how, coming back to that question of how, we always start with a purpose which is in the why. For those who like reading, there's a book written by somebody called Simon Sinek. It says, start with why. So when you come to mentorship, so that it makes sense, you must come with a purpose. And the purpose really that you must come with is to gain technical competence in the manner of driving the process and in the manner of dealing with information, because arbitration, like all dispute situations, involves a lot of information to sift through. So it will be necessary that when you come into mentorship, you come knowing that you need to learn how to have the competence to navigate, the technical skills to navigate through a lot of information and the different people, different personalities, and different temperaments. And then you must come knowing that you should learn how to develop professional judgment. Then you also need to know that as a mentee, you are expected to also learn aspects of ethical grounding, because arbitrators do their craft through trust. And therefore, every arbitrator must understand the dimensions of the ethics that govern the arbitral space. And so you must be watchful to pick the gems which build your ethical grounding. Then, of course, in all areas, and so much so in arbitration, you must learn to be, one, a strategic thinker, but two, a strategic thinker who thinks on his or her feet, because things just keep popping up and you have to deal with them. It's like driving, really, because the road is never straight. And in our roads, thank God, they are now fairly smooth. In the olden days, you had to deal with more with potholes than with bumps. And when you drive, you really have to be careful and to negotiate every pothole, every corner, place where the road doesn't exist anymore, where it begins and there's an edge climb. So you have to develop that kind of strategic thinking and thinking on your feet. Now, and then you should also come with patience, knowing that mentorship is a process which leads to graduated autonomy, where you begin with knowing little and doing little, and then you go getting competence and learning how to do more by yourself, and then progressively you do not require supervision. So you should be able to feel the progress that you're making as you go through mentorship. And you should be able to get to a place where you say, I can now do it. Now, if you don't have that in your mind, then you may not know how it is going. And part of the reason why the logbook is provided is so that it can assist you to gauge yourself along those lines. Now, again, on the question of how the mechanics of how it is done, and this is only a suggestion, there is the feeling among many mentors and also mentees that mentorship means showing up when there's a preliminary meeting and leaving when it is over, showing up when there's a hearing with a notebook and jotting a few notes. And when the hearing is over, you go away. And basically showing up to be exposed. I want to suggest to you that for those who are seeking mentorship, you need to look at mentorship from a broader perspective. And it should have meetings away from that arbitral space because it is learning. So that even when you go into the arbitral space, you are prepared and you know what to expect. And you have already built your templates for capturing the process and the knowledge that you get from there. So it is good that when you get into mentorship, you have scheduled meetings with your mentor outside the arbitration, where you have an agenda to address, the process and whatever is happening. And so you're able to develop that template to capture and to understand what is happening. You should, at the end of each one of them, of those meetings, have a documented action points. You have documented action points so that there is work to do, and then a follow-up for accountability. That actually forms the foundation for mentorship, because in those meetings, the agenda for mentorship is actually developed. Now, when then you come to mentorship, we expect that it will be through exposure, observation, and then it will also be through, let me go back to that exposure. You see, when you are learning to be an arbitrator, you are not learning just to sit as an arbitrator and give orders for direction. You are learning how to deal with the situations as they arise. And so a good mentee observes the arbitrator, listens to the arbitrator, observes the parties, listens to the parties, observes the representatives, be they lawyers or lay representatives, and listens to them. Observes witnesses, listens to them, because that is the environment within which an arbitrator operates. So you must familiarize yourself with that environment and how it unfolds, and then you see how the arbitrator is dealing with it. To be able to do that, a mentee needs to bring a certain mindset into the room and into that broader space of mentorship. One is that a mentee should come into mentorship with the clear understanding that mentorship is not a rescue operation, because if you come to be rescued, then you are starting from a very bad point. Mentorship is a process of refinement. So you are supposed to come in carrying something, and you have done self-audit, and after every session you do self-audit so that you see where you need more refinement. So you need to come in knowing yourself. Know yourself, and identify those areas and then keep doing audits. It is through these audits that you'll be able to tell when your confidence level, your competence level, your driving skills have got you to the level where you can go out on your own. You may complete the mandatory 2 mentorships and you feel, no, I am not there yet. And you actually go for a third one. So that you, from your own audit, you realize that now I have got to the place that I want to be. A mentee, of course, must come into mentorship with a mindset of growth. A mindset of growth. Again, growth will work when you have very clear objectives of what to learn from the mentorship. So once you have all those happening, you have come in. Sorry, I want to deal with this phone of mine here. Somebody is calling persistently. Yes, when you come with that mentality of that you want to attain growth under mentorship, and then you are ready to prepare, and you're prepared to go for mentorship in the first place, and you are ready also to keep preparing for upcoming assignments or processes, and you have your own initiative as part of your mindset, and you are disciplined, then that makes mentorship easy. Remember, if you carry the mentality, the mindset that mentorship is a process of filling up the logbook, you will not learn. It is not a process of ticking boxes. It is a process of learning. It is a process of growth. It is a process of refinement. Of course, for mentors, they have also to bring into the room a mindset of appreciating the needs of the mentee, and they have to appreciate their role also, knowing that they are how the mentee practices and turns out will partly have something to do with their mentorship. And they should come in with a sense of responsibility for that growth and graduated improvement of the mentee. Now, before I touch on the other one to set the stage for when, which is a fairly short discussion, I would like to give you a few hot quotes for understanding, for helping you to set up your agenda and to set up your mindset. The first one is for you to understand that arbitration is an applied craft. It is an applied craft and cannot be fully captured in a syllabus or in a logbook. And so when you go for mentorship, you are going to learn a craft, an applied craft. And the best way to learn an applied craft is to observe the craftsman performing. The second one is that the critical risk in arbitration is often procedural failure. It is usually never a lack of doctrinal knowledge, because that one we learn through the pathway courses. So you should be very keen to understand procedure and also to understand how to run that procedure. And then the whole process of arbitration is meant to go where David Onsare talked about, an award which cannot be challenged. And you should know that most of the challenges that come on awards have to do with the procedure. They have to do with the lack of robustness because all issues are not addressed or something. There are stages which were skipped. And so you should be clear that the purpose of learning as a mentee is to be so competent in all the stages of arbitration and in running the process that the outcome of that process, which is an award, does not fail for lack of robustness, procedural and the product robustness, where the product is the award. And also that ethical rules are easier to teach than to apply under pressure. And so when you are a mentee, you'll see the taught ethical rules being put under pressure. And you'll know how to deal with that pressure and still keep to the ethical true north as a mentee and eventually as an arbitrator. Now, when we then look at mentorship in the light of what David Onsare has presented on the how, it does not just equip you, the mentee, with skills, it actually equips you with the skills and a personality. It brings forth from you a personality which protects the parties in terms of their rights, in terms of their legitimate expectations. It protects the reputation of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. It protects the profession of arbitration in general. And so when you come with that big picture, in mentorship, then you are like benefit from the mentee who casually walks into and out of arbitration proceedings, and then takes the necessary boxes, fills the necessary hours in the logbook, and presents them for empanelment. Now, having said so much about how, I'll set the stage for the next item, which is when the mentorship should be done. And mentorship, of course, should start as early as possible. As soon as you have an interest in arbitration or any other method of dispute resolution, you should start mentorship. That is mentorship as an incremental learning. And therefore, everything you learn will finally contribute to your ultimate learning when you begin doing arbitration. So when is as early as possible according to the general theory of mentorship and learning. Should you do mentorship when you have gone through the entry course, the membership qualifying courses? Again, yes, it is also a good entry point, because when you do mentorship at that point, you already know what is expected. You have already a background against which you can evaluate your weaknesses, especially the human side of things. There are those who have no confidence and they cannot handle a rowdy team. You already have known that, and you know the processes that you know the 8 processes that an arbitration has to go through, from the preliminary meeting down to the award writing, and then the request for clarification, for challenges where you are going to be served as a party, you'll be enjoined as a party when there's a challenge. You will have known that, and therefore, somebody who has gone through the training will be a more prepared mentee. But in my view, the question of when does not determine how good an arbitrator you become or how much you learn from mentorship. It is the question of how prepared you are for mentorship, how against the process, how well you have identified challenges that you'd want to overcome through mentorship, and how you approach that mentorship yourself. When we'll go with how long. How long depends on mentorship, and you are going to provide the service that is necessary to protect other people's rights, to make good judgments, to run a process well, and not to be unnecessarily expensive because of incompetence. Because when you're incompetent, you keep jogging on the spot with the parties, and you accumulate hours which should not be wasted through incompetence. So you should feel that you are bringing something worthwhile in arbitration, and that's when you can now branch out. Remember, after you have left, again, when it does not stop, there is peer mentorship. So that among the peers, you will also still keep learning, and you keep comparing notes through webinars, through meetings, through surgeries, which I'm told are about to begin again. So it is a lifelong learning process. And what we are talking about here today as the topic of mentorship, the main thrust of today's part of mentorship, is really the starter kit mentorship, where you start so that you do this mentorship so that you can gain an entry point, you can get to the threshold and you're able to but that's after domestic arbitration, you may find yourself wanting to do mentorship in exit, state, the states, and on and on and on. At that point, I'll invite my colleague, David Onsare. David Onsare, I don't know whether I should start saying proposed Dr. David Onsare, or is it professor at this point? It is always good to be aspiration.
Proposed sounds really nice. Sounds really nice.
It is near. It is near.
Very near.
Very good.
I think, Mwalimu, you have made contours and foundational points leading us to the logbook itself, and that is why we are here. I have looked at the program, and I believe this is where the CEO comes in and mentions a bit about the logbook. CEO, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
I believe this is where you come in.
All right. Thank you, Director Onsare. Thank you, Mwalimu. You've done great in inspiring the people we have today in terms of jolting that aspect of why mentorship and how to actually do it right. And it takes me back to when I did my mentorship and even some of the things that we have now of trying to create the structure. So I think 4 years ago, there are those who would, like Mwalimu, you've said, it became now paramount that it became paramount for us to structure it in a way so that at least we enhance the experience for every person who passes through the CIArb Kenya mentorship. Before the mentorship logbook was created, what has been there before is that, as said by David Onsare, we, as an appointing authority, every appointment that the institute makes, we ensure that we attach a mentee to it. So for you to qualify for mentorship, you need to be at member level and above and paid up. And how we go about this is we request you, once you fulfill those two pre-qualifications, is write to us through info@ciabkenya.org, our normal email address, requesting for mentorship, attaching your membership certificate, as well as indicating that you're now interested and you've gotten to this particular level of membership, or you've taken this particular training, in this case, until module 1. And how that has happened is that we have this, at every point that we get the request, we have a rolling list. So we'll put you at the end of the list. And for every appointment we make, we put the person at the top of that list. How then we go about it is, for every once a mentee expresses interest and it is now your turn to be given mentorship, we will place you with 2 arbitrators. Right now we're averaging about 8 matters per week, for example. So in those 8 matters, we're likely to put at least 4 mentees, because every mentee gets access to 2 mentorship opportunities. Now, after we've put you in the mentorship, or at least we will write to the arbitrator asking whether they are okay taking up a mentee. If the arbitrator is okay with it, then we place you. Then we also write to you as the mentee, asking you to get in touch with the arbitrator and provide the contact details. That way now we link the 2 of you up, and then now you can start the proceeding. The expectation is that you will be exposed to the arbitration process from the word go, that is from the beginning all the way to the end when the award is written or even enforced and all that. And the idea is to ensure that you get exposed to every aspect of the arbitration process and procedure, so that you don't, you not only have the theoretical knowledge that is shared during the tutorials, but then you get to see the dynamics of it at play during the process. The mentorship logbook that you've made reference to essentially captures the procedural aspects all the way from the beginning to the end. And how we've structured it is to ensure that there is concurrence between both the mentor and the mentee in terms of the skills that are being passed on, in terms of the skills that are being refined, in terms of the knowledge that you're acquiring as a mentor, as a mentee, at every step of the arbitration proceeding. And previously what we have requested is that at the conclusion of your mentorship program, and this is the case where maybe the arbitrator or your mentor in this case has done and dispensed with the arbitration procedure, he will then, or she, gauging on how the experience was, will write a letter of recommendation to us at the Secretariat saying that this particular person has gone through mentorship under myself, and we believe they are skilled enough now to get onto the next aspect, or at least to handle arbitrations on their own. How we've been doing it is that at the conclusion of your mentorship, and this is in the instance where we get 2 letters of recommendation from the 2 separate mentors, we will then bring you on board and you can sit the induction training. So we induct you, and upon passing the induction training, then you can apply to be on the role of neutrals. Mentorship is very, very critical because it bridges, as Onsare said, the gap between theoretical aspect and the practical skills. And that is why we are structuring it so that we ensure, number one, there's quality assurance. The mentorship I go through is more or less similar. It may not be 100% similar, but at least the things or the fundamental aspects that we expect it to achieve cuts across for everyone. So some people are not disadvantaged or others advantaged based on the mentor that they get. At least for some of the fundamental aspect, by structuring it, we are sure that at least it will be similar and some of the goals are achieved at the very minimum. Secondly, the aim of structuring the mentorship is to ensure that you're able to learn from the various aspects. And because we've put it in the mentorship logbook, where we have been able to identify the critical, allow me to call them milestones in an arbitration proceeding, then in an event where maybe you don't have to experience that, it is those now instances that Mwalimu is saying, you can now get to meet with your mentor, and the mentor can then have that particular agenda so that you're able to discuss and you're able to run through with it. Now, what Mwalimu said was very, very critical in terms of the role of mentorship, and I think even Onsare mentioned this, is not for you to tick a particular box. You go to mentorship with the intention of learning and getting the most out of that particular experience, because it's only in doing that that you get the most out of the activity. And at this point, I will not delve so much into the structure because I believe I've highlighted it. Only one thing I'd want to highlight is that we've seen the impact that the mentorship program has had over the years. This is something that was introduced some times back. And as at last year, we were able to record, I think, 144 cases of mentorship, the entire of last year, that are successful, and that is a big thing. So we hope that by structuring it and by giving it some sort of structure through the logbook, we'll be able to even address more platforms for mentorship. We'll be able to have more people being mentored. And what we've constantly said is that do not only rely on the CIArb mentorship requests. As Mwalimu said, in the instance where you still feel like do not mind giving you an additional mentorship. We've had instances where the mentees that we've placed in arbitrations are unable to progress, either because the process failed, the parties may be settled and they didn't get a chance without notifying us. So we are now informing you that should that happen, or for whatever reason the arbitration or the arbitrator we've paired with you is not progressing, feel free to write to us and tell us this is not happening. Kindly place me in another mentorship. That way is being used the best way possible, that you don't have to lose maybe a year or two as you're waiting to get into the panel of neutrals. Because at the end of the day, the route for mentorship is aimed to skill you or upskill you so that you can now start handling arbitrations on your own. The catch-22 situation that Onsare referenced, where you cannot be appointed because you do not have experience, and you do not have experience because you've not been appointed. This mentorship logbook is now meant to solve that problem. And on Saturday, what I want to do is I want to share my screen on the proposed logbook so that we see what is expected. And when you're talking about this logbook, we are targeting both the mentors who we appoint, and they have and the responsibility that they will now have the responsibility they will now have over their mentees, and also for the mentees now who are taking advantage of this platform to get to learn. So it is for both, and you will realize that at every stage of this mentorship logbook, both the mentor and the mentee have a particular role to play. So I'll just highlight this, and maybe I'll invite thereafter both Mwalimu and Onsare to just say a few comments as to the structure of it. And we start this number one by outlining the guidelines that have to be adhered to during the mentorship period. Of course, this is something that we usually articulate at the point of nominating the arbitrator, or in this case now your mentor, is that there has to be prior consent by the parties to join you in as a mentee into the proceedings. Secondly, the mentee shall make full disclosure to the mentor of any prior involvement or contact with the parties, counsel or subject matter to enable an informed decision on participation, mostly to look at issues of conflict of interest, issues of confidentiality, and so on and so forth. Thirdly, the mentee shall treat as confidential everything learned or heard at all stages of the arbitration. Remember that arbitration is a confidential process, so that still is something that we ensure is paramount even during these mentorship proceedings. Then, number 4, the mentee shall avoid direct contact with parties, representatives, and other participants, and shall promptly report any such contact to the mentor. So, considering the mentor-mentee relationship, you're not necessarily the arbitrator, but in this case, you are working very closely with the arbitrator. So in terms of contact, that is very important that you take into consideration. Fifth, care shall be taken not to create the impression that the mentee is acting as an assistant or representative of the mentor. So the aspect of the impression of you are like an assistant arbitrator, that's what you're talking about. The mentee shall not participate in any legal proceedings arising from or related to an arbitration in which they were involved as a mentee. So to ensure that you're not necessarily part of the proceeding, so should anything arise out of that particular procedure of arbitration, either there's a court application or anything like that, you are not to participate in it, to ensure that your role is purely on mentorship and not necessarily party to the dispute or party to the procedures of arbitration. The mentorship carries no financial benefits or entitlement to reimbursements. So because this is a voluntary engagement, both at the CIArb level, the mentee level, the mentor level, there is no financial entitlement to be gotten out of it. So that is to mean that at the end of it, as the arbitrator is getting their fee, we don't necessarily expect that you're asking about, what about myself? And then number 8, CIArb Kenya will award CPD points upon completion of the mentorship to both the mentor and the mentee. Given that this is a critical learning process for both the mentor and the mentee, that's why we included that bit of the CPDs. So the first aspect on the logbook is on the general information about the arbitration matter. This will help us to ensure that we have a database that is running at the Secretariat on appointment matters. So there's a particular appointment that you're going to place you on. So this is just to highlight that this is the particular mentorship program that I went to. These were the parties and all that. So it captures just the general information about who the arbitrator is, the level of mentorship, you as the mentee, your level of mentorship, the period of mentorship, like from when the arbitration started to the end, the nature of dispute, is it a finance, construction, insurance, so on and so forth. Nature of arbitration, is it domestic, is it international, seat of arbitration? And finally, the confidentiality undertaking, has it been signed? And we expect that, of course, once you agree to take up this mentorship, then the confidentiality undertaking can be done by your mentor. And then secondly, is this declaration by the mentee, in terms of the true and accurate records of the mentorship experience, as well as the mentor's declaration. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be for both the mentor and the mentee, and that is why you're able to see that. In terms of confidentiality and ethics, we just have highlighted that to ensure that we know that at least at the very least, confidentiality has been upheld, conflict of interest has been addressed, the code of ethics discussed, as well as data protection obligations understood. So the mentor will be the one in charge of this and will ensure that the mentee is well up to speed as to those 4 critical issues. So the structure of the logbook, as I said, it follows through the major 8 phases of the arbitral process, starting with the acceptance of appointment and preliminary matters. Then you go to case management and preliminary meeting, pleading stage, evidence and discovery, hearing stage, submissions and deliberations, award writing, and post-award processes. And each phase has, number 1, expected competencies, and you will be able to see it as we go along, the activities to participate or to observe. Then there will be session log tables where you're able to record that, as well as now the mentor's evaluation. And as you can see, this is how we've articulated it. So for example, under phase 1, which is acceptance of appointments, we've articulated at least a highlight of the expected learning outcomes that the mentee should at the very least understand. It is not to mean that this list is exhaustive, but that just forms like the fundamental aspect that we expect the mentor or the mentee to learn at that particular stage. So we're talking of, in that particular phase, appointment procedures, independence and impartiality, disclosure obligations, terms of appointment and fees. So you'll be able now to log in whatever it is that you've discussed or you've learned under any one of this. This is mostly in as much as it is there to assist the institute to assess your readiness to take up matters on your own. It is also a self-regulatory and self-assessment of sorts, so that at least you're able to judge or self-judge, have I learned this particular process the correct way? What are the skills that I've gained within this particular phase? Then what are your reflections? So this is mostly a personal experience in as much as it is for us to guide and the mentor to also evaluate. But mostly you're using it as a learning tool, and as everything that it comes with arbitration, you take charge in terms of, am I well off in this particular area? So that even when you've indicated that maybe you're not comfortable at a particular phase, then you can easily put that under your reflections, or you can now ask your mentor to give you more content or more exposure within that particular phase. So at that particular aspect, this, the part here, this is where the mentee is supposed to fill in. And at every stage, the mentor's evaluation for phase 1 is given, and they're able to articulate in case there are areas of improvement, they sign and date that particular aspect. Then that repeats across all phases. So we had identified about 8 phases up there. So phase 2 is on case management and preliminary meetings. So we're looking at drafting terms of reference, procedural timetable, preliminary conference, jurisdictional considerations. And feel free to add more onto this. As I mentioned, this is just a highlight and a guideline. You can learn more in terms of case management and preliminary meetings. There may be more applications that come up. That is where you then log them in, and follows the same structure of the mentee filling in, the mentor evaluating and suggesting the areas of improvement, and they sign it off. Then the pleading stage in phase 3, what you're looking at is filings of pleadings, statements of claim, of defense, counterclaims and replies, management of times. And the competencies that you're trying to look at are understanding pleading structure, case theory development, and legal drafting skills, and follows through the evaluations and areas to improve. Then we have evidence and discovery. We have articulated there some of the key activities, including document production, witness statements, expert reports, objections to evidence, amongst others. And it follows through in phase 5, the hearing stage, phase 6, submissions and deliberations, phase 7, where we're looking at award writing in terms of now structures of award, drafting, cost awards, formal publication, etc. Then post-award processes, we have highlighted them there. What we are asking you to do is ensure that you're as much part of the process so that you get to learn as much as possible. And one of my experiences that was most impactful is where the arbitrator gave me the latitude, at least, to do some of the things maybe before he could do them. So probably give me the latitude to draft the awards, draft procedural orders for directions, prepare minutes or even notes, in as much as he's also taking notes. That way you're part of the process as much as possible. And that is what we are asking the mentors in this call to also take up and run with. So finally, once all that has been done, then there's the overall skills assessment, in which case now we ask the mentor to rate the mentee on a scale of 1 to 5. And this ensures that it is not punitive, but essentially it is guiding, so that should then the competency area identified be, low scaling, let's say like something about drafting skills is rated as 1, then we know exactly what it is that we can do at the secretariat, or even the mentor can assist the mentee do, so that then the drafting skills can progress from 1 maybe to about 4 or 5. So we have those competency areas identified there. We have the professional conduct, understanding of the arbitral procedure, legal analysis, drafting skills, ethics and confidentiality, initiative, and learning attitude. And then finally here we have the general comments on the mentee's performance. And of course, these spaces provided here are expandable. You can be able to write as much as possible. So it's not just put only to reflect in the 2 lines, because I know most comments here will be comprehensive. And then now the recommendation from the mentor, successfully completed mentorship. Once you kick that, we also expect that you write the letter of recommendation. Requires additional mentorship. Once it's submitted, then we can place them under new mentorship suitable for advanced arbitration roles. Then we know to progress you into the induction training. And then now that is signed and finalized. And then now there's also a last part there about what I have learned from the mentorship, and just some information there about how that has shaped the career of the mentee. So in a nutshell, that is how the logbook is expected to work. And you're hoping that once we have placed you as a mentor as a mentee in any mentorship, that you will take the first instance. Because now we've had instances where we have given you a mentorship opportunity, and yet there are those who expect maybe the mentor to take up the responsibility of finding out about this person. So as the mentee, it is your responsibility to ensure that, number 1, you're able to contact the mentor. Number 2, you're able to also, because I know in this call we have, as I've seen from the list of participants, we have the mentees side. I've seen we have a number of mentors as well, but the majority are on the mentee side. So it will be an expected requirement that the mentee also takes charge in ensuring that this logbook is filled. I will write to every person within our membership, and even at the point at which we are making the nominations, we'll be adjoining this mentorship logbook to the arbitrator, so that they are also aware as to what is expected of them during the mentorship program. So allow me to just get to that particular point and invite any comments or questions, or maybe even additional comments from the facilitators about the structure of the mentorship. But I believe most of the things in terms of the fundamental and the underlying aspects about the mentorship have already been addressed. But we can wait to hear from the facilitators or any question arising from that presentation on how the logbook is supposed to work. Onsare, Molim, any comments before I take the questions?
Thank you, CEO. It's quite comprehensive. I don't think I can add much to what you said. The logbook is a guideline. It is not exhaustive. And this being the first edition, The Chartered Institute of Arbitrators will be expecting feedback so that it can be improved as we go along. But the feature that you should note is that even as it is now, it does not restrict the mentor or the mentee to the things that are written there. It gives room to report more so that perhaps what becomes then notorious in terms of reporting will be mainstreamed into the next edition. Now, because I see that we are really into the area for Q&A, I'll take some 3-4 minutes to talk about where and who quickly, so that again Mr. Onsare can do the same, and then we can combine all the Q&A so that we have questions on the logbook together with any other question that may arise. So let me go to where should mentorship take place? Very simply, the purpose of mentorship, which is run by the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, is to get the mentee empaneled as an arbitrator also. And so this mentorship should take place within the professional setting of the institutional setting of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And then it should also take place within a professional setting. It is not a casual exercise, because a casual exercise, a walk in, walk out once in a while, now and then, that will not achieve the aim that the Chartered Institute wants to achieve, and it will not bring the necessary competence and ethical setting that the Institute wants to attain. It should also, of course, happen within an interaction setting which allows maximum interaction without intrusion. And so physical spaces, virtual spaces, which give a space for interaction. Then I'll go to who, again, quickly. Given the aim of this mentorship, you will be allocated mentors who are of course, practicing and who are in good standing, because it will not be possible for the Chartered Institute to get recommendations from a member who is not in good standing. Needless to say, it will have to be from a practitioner. You will have to mentor with a practitioner. And it is a practitioner of arbitration. At one time, I was a proponent of the idea that if I mentor somebody, even on matters where I am not the arbitrator, but I am representing parties, and since we are going to arbitration and there's an arbitrator sitting, then that mentorship should be recognized by the Chartered Institute. But upon reflection and some discussion, it was agreed that the person who will mentor is not a party representative. It's not an advocate. It could be an advocate, but sitting as an arbitrator. Why? Because it will be possible for the arbitrator to do reviews as an arbitrator and to give a report as an arbitrator. And it will be possible for that interaction, looking at the issues that come to the arbitrator rather than to the advocate. The mentor and the mentee will be able to discuss that within a space of arbitration from an arbitrator's point of view. Of course, when a mentee who intends to practice with a Chartered Institute of Arbitrators get mentorship from persons who are not qualified, but because in the arbitral space you can get party-appointed arbitrators, there is the risk of learning the wrong things. And of course, that won't lead to empowerment. So it is necessary to be careful where one gets their mentorship from. And even when you are getting additional mentorship outside the mentors that you've been allocated by the Chartered Institute, just make sure that you are mentoring with people with credibility and people who have gone through training, and therefore people who are competent to give that mentorship. I'll pass it to David Onsare so that you add what you're adding, and then the CEO will lead us into the Q&A.
Good. I have a few comments to make. Thank you very much again, Dr. Thank you very much, CEO. I think it's important to note that we have ticked a box for quite some time now. You know, you're taken through training, classroom training, formal training, theoretical training. We take you to mentorship in an arbitration, then we get a letter. But we have not tried to make it concrete. And this is where the logbook comes in. We are making the process, the program, the mentorship program concrete. By virtue of the mentorship logbook, what we are doing as an institute is we are standardizing our output, standardizing the quality of arbitrators we are producing, standardizing the quality of practitioners, arbitration practitioners we produce. A few anecdotes to add. Mentorship without documentation is a conversation. Mentorship with documentation is a credential. The logbook here is what converts this relationship from an informal arrangement, the conversation, into a verifiable record of professional development. That is the credential aspect. And that CIArb Kenya and eventually the wider arbitration community can recognize in good time. Just before I pass it on to CEO, again, I want us to have this go on record. We did not build this logbook as a bureaucratic exercise. You know, we're doing it because we have nothing else to do. We just have to do it and frustrate people or things like that. We built it because we believe that the next generation of Kenyan and African arbitration practitioners, arbitration stakeholders deserve a structured pathway into the profession, not just an open door with no directions. The arbitrators who will sit in significant disputes 10 years from now are on this call today. Some of them qualified recently. Some of them have not yet attended their first hearing. The logbook is for all of us. And the mentors who will shape those practitioners years over decades. Your role in this program is not peripheral. We are central to this arrangement, central to the mentorship aspect. The logbook is only as valuable as the mentors who take it seriously and use it with full commitment. I think now I can hand it over to the CEO to handle the Q&A. CEO?
Thank you very much. So we had requested that should you have any question, you put it on the chat. You can also feel free to raise your hand and you're going to address it. And there's a question on the chat. Is allocation of mentor based on qualification of mentee? Example, construction or legal? And Mwalimu, would you like to address that?
Yes, I'll address it. Alice Nyagah, the training that the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators offers is what I would call generic. It is not sector-based. It develops skills which are applicable in dispute resolution wherever the dispute arises from. And since mentorship is meant to develop those skills which are of general application, the qualification of the mentee will not really matter because the mentee is meant to develop the general skills. If the mentee is very keen to only do construction matters and expresses that preference, that can be considered, but I would consider that to be wanting to confine oneself too strictly. It is good to have to see a lawyer running an arbitration, a quantity surveyor conducting an arbitration, an architect conducting an arbitration, because I expect that many people don't go into it to do specific narrow areas. Even within construction, there are various issues that come up. There could be issues of time management, there could be issues of payment, there could be issues of quality, and therefore, you still need broad skills. Remember what we said earlier, is that the part of the mentorship actually trains you to be a critical thinker. And the critical thinker is a skill of general application. And therefore, I would not want to confine somebody to a preferred area, because you may prefer to do construction, but then some people have faith that you can do a commercial matter, and they'll come to you, and you will fail them if you have not developed the confidence. Remember the skills you have, because you all go through the same training. It is the confidence to handle matters. And so the answer is not necessarily. That's the answer to that first question by Alice Nyagah. Thank you. We can progress.
Thank you, Mwalimu. And yes, that is the position. In terms of the second question is from Omar. Many thanks for the informative session. Can kindly advise on how and where to collect the logbooks for the current mentees starting their mentorship? I think I can answer that. So we mentioned that we place the mentors and the mentees, or at least we link the mentees and the mentors at the point at which we are making the appointments. So we will be handling that at the Institute. We will be sending the online version of the mentorship logbook at the point at which we are linking you, the mentee, with the mentor. And then at the point at which now you need to, once it has been concluded, then you can share it back on email. We're trying to go paperless. So that's at the point at which now you'll be able to liaise with the Secretariat. Should there be any concerns or requests or information that you need during your mentorship period, the Secretariat remains available for that clarification to be made, for that additional information to be provided, or for any queries to be responded to. There's a question here from Arunga. Onsare, maybe you can answer this. Are there timelines for mentorship?
I believe this was covered by Mwalimu in his presentation, that yes, as an institute, we expect you to have 2 mentors to participate actively in 2 arbitrations. But you can go further and say that I have been through 2 arbitrations with 2 different arbitrators, and I believe I still need further mentorship. So on a personal level, you can go beyond the 2. But as an institute, for you to be eligible to be admitted to the role, you have to complete the two mentorship sessions, or the 2 mentorship periods. That is 2 arbitrations by 2 different arbitrators. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you,
Can I
Director.
also add something? Let me add something to that, The two arbitrations that Mr. Onsare has mentioned do not have a timeline, because an arbitration can be a year, it can be 8 months, it can be 2 years, it can be 5 years. So it's not possible to say that mentorship should be done within a year or 2 years. It depends on arbitrations which are not allocated a time when they must be completed. So I know many mentees are really frustrated when a matter doesn't take off or it takes too long. And when I meet a mentee who is that frustrated, I turn into preaching. I turn to preaching and I preach patience, because the outcome of full mentorship is so valuable that you don't want to rush it. But like the CEO has, you still have a slave route to go back to the Chartered Institute and say that this one has told, can I have another one? And there are some that move pretty fast. If you're lucky, you can actually do this in a year or two and you will be empaneled. But when things slow down, like we say when we do preaching, it could be God's timing. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mwalimu. There is a comment from Brenda Wagura. Thank you for this informative session. I believe the introduction of these minimum standards to the mentorship framework will scale up the excellence of members in the institutes. Brenda, we are right there with you, and that is also the vision that we saw when we introduced this. Emily is asking, she's a student, final year student, have finished her last semester as well as a course on international commercial arbitration. I'm very much interested in arbitration, so I wanted some clarity on whether I can also be part of the mentorship program or I need to have additional qualifications first. Maybe before I can give that, I need to make a clarification that the mentorship program that you're offering is purely from those who have undertaken the CIArb training as well as are CIArb members. So I want to mention that first and then invite Mwalimu, maybe you can also say something to that.
Thank you, CEO. The answer is contained within what you have said, actually, that she has a very good starting point. The requirement for mentorship must fulfill a primary requirement that one must have a professed profession so that they can become members of the Chartered Institute. That looks like it is in place. There is a good starting point that you have done a course in international arbitration, but then the mentorship that we are talking about is structured within the ladder of the growth within the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and therefore you need to take the pathway courses, pathway course in arbitration, and you attain now, which will be required here, is that you become a member through registration. So you become a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, but there are categories, associate, this member and fellow, and this chartered. CEO, you need to clarify whether it is membership by registration or it is membership by grade, so that that question is handled here and we don't have it coming back. So yes, you need to do something extra, and that is to enroll within the pathway courses. There's an introduction is underway to take place in April, I'm sure. And again, CEO, you can tell the members whether registration is still open, because I know it had been closed when this course was to be done in January. Now that it has been extended, has the registration been reopened so that those who may want to jump in right away can register and undertake the course in April. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mwalimu, for that clarity. And to provide further clarity, there's a question you've asked about membership. Is it the grade or membership by registration? You can become a member of CIArb depending on the entry point or whichever course you did. So we have the introduction to arbitration and ADR, and allow me to use the arbitration pathway as an example. So if you do the introduction to arbitration and ADR, you're eligible to register as an associate. And then as an associate, you're then eligible to do module 1, which is the laws of arbitration processes and procedures, that will then pre-qualify you to upgrade from an associate to member. So associate is FCIArb, member is MCIArb. You then go ahead and do module 2, which is laws of obligations, contract and torts. Module 3, which is award writing and the law of evidence, and sit a peer interview for you to be upgraded to fellow FCIArb. That is the arbitration pathway, the modular way. There are those who choose to go the accelerated route way, where you do either accelerated route to member, so that you do ARM to become an MCIArb, or accelerated route to fellow, that then will qualify you to become an FCIArb. So there are particular points, or at any given time, you can either use the entry course where you join in as an associate, of which now you need to still do module 1 to upgrade to member level. You can do ARM and get to member level. You can do ARF and get to fellow level. So those who are doing ARF, they are fellows, but they still need to sit through the mentorship program. So even for them, they are expected to apply for mentorship once they've gotten their fellowship credentials. So when you're talking about the mentorship program is accessible to those who are members of the institute, it is members to mean by registration. You have a CIArb certificate that says you're a member of the institute, but from the member grade and up. You'll get to appreciate that as an associate, even the knowledge that you have is still quite limited for you to appreciate in depth the processes and procedures of arbitration. And that's why for mentorship, we at least require you to have gone through membership, to have gone through module 1, which is the laws of arbitration processes and procedure, to be able to gain insights that then will be relevant during your mentorship period. And I'll take that with the question that has been asked by Eva Mwangi as to whether mentorship is paid for by the mentee. The mentorship program is one of the benefits of being a member of the institute. It is something that we do for free. So the mentee or the mentor, they need not pay anything. It is something that we do as a value proposition or as an enhancement and a benefit to being a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya branch. Then there's a question here from Faisal. He says, thank you for the insightful session. He's trained in construction adjudication only. And he's asking whether he's also eligible for mentorship and arbitrators, or these will be under construction adjudicators only. Mwalimu, you're a construction adjudicator. Maybe you can answer this as well.
Yes, I can take it. Faisal, you are trained in adjudication, and if you have done a bit of a review of the process of arbitration and the process of adjudication, they are not quite the same thing. And because there is a pathway to fellowship as an adjudicator, and there's a pathway to fellowship as an arbitrator, I suppose the best place to do your mentorship for professional growth is adjudication. Now, I would also want to mention something else. Not everybody who does mentorship wants to practice arbitration. Because of the nature of the work that we do in our various parent professions, somebody will do mentorship, is a lawyer like Onsare here, and what he wants is to understand that process so that he can be a very good lawyer in arbitration. And a quantity surveyor will want to take the courses, do mentorship, so that he can understand the kind of problems that happen in construction which end up in arbitration and how they are dealt with in arbitration, so that he can run his projects in a way that avoids those pitfalls. I see Patrick Mugo here, architect. He may want to do the same. Take and use that as a skill to practice in his primary profession. So, Faisal, if you are now involved in arbitrations and you find that you need to gain some insights in arbitration, and if you are a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators at the member level, and you'd want to take mentorship in arbitration, there is nothing to stop you because technically you've qualified on all the entry requirements. You have met all the thresholds. Unless there is a policy to the contrary, and the CEO can confirm that.
Thank you, Malim. I think you've hit the nail on the head. The only other assurance I can also provide, Faisal, is that because we handle a number of applications for construction adjudicators, when you're making your request for mentorship, you can request specifically for construction adjudication due to your background. So we then make consideration for that and make that a placement for you. Then Stella Cathel, does the Institute issue the logbooks? Yes, we will be the ones to issue the logbooks. As mentees with templates to guide them when doing drafts. Example template for an award. Director Onsare, would you like to address that question?
I think we should respond to that question in these terms. Those should be the benefits of your relationship with your mentor. They should be sharing these templates to help you and guide you. Insofar as an award is concerned, however, this is part of your training. On your route to fellow, you will get to a point where you will have an opportunity to take on an award writing assessment test. But in the event that you attend proceedings as a mentee and you have not yet reached that level, this is where now you ask your mentor to share these documents. A procedural order, how does it look like? An award, how does it look like? So that you can keep for your future use as an arbitrator. I think that should answer that question. But as an institute, we do not have these templates available that we can share with you, because there's no one standard for an award. There's no one standard for procedural order. Some people call it a procedural order, others call it an order for directions. So this is what you learn as part of your mentorship, and you curate a standard for yourself, a style for yourself.
Thank you, Director Onsare. Lucy, you've heard what Director Onsare has said. It is now one of those platforms that you get to engage with your mentor to then give you the templates. However, for award writing, and it's actually a very interesting point, because by the time and assuming that you're taking your mentorship, as Director Onsare has said, at the point of member level, you're yet to learn about the award writing, comprehensively. So we have award writing at the Secretariat that we use for Module 3, you can be able to explore. But first of all, take advantage of your relationship with your mentor, because then they will be able to enhance that experience for you and guide you as well. Then there's a message here from James Kwesiga. James is joining us from Uganda, I believe. The comment is CIArb Kenya is instrumental in the regional and continental advancement of ADR. Kindly advise on how an arbitration mentee in a different jurisdiction can benefit from the same. In the instance that the mentee would like to be attached to a mentor in Kenya, is there a soft copy notebook available? If so, will the mentor and mentee have to make entries online? And can the mentee attend arbitral proceedings online subject to the parties' consent? I'll actually give both Onsare and Mwalimu an opportunity to respond to this. It's somehow multifaceted or has several layers to it. We can start with you, Director Onsare.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, James, for the question. Now, insofar as James is concerned, Uganda is a chapter of CIArb Kenya branch. That means, I'm not sure of how the mentorship aspect is concerned, but they have the benefit of the logbook as is. The logbook is for CIArb Kenya branch, meaning Uganda will also benefit from the logbook. However, for anyone within the continent who is not a member of CIArb Kenya, unfortunately, this program will not be available to you, as it is a CIArb Kenya branch initiative. It belongs to the CIArb Kenya branch initiative. So this benefits our members as a value add to their training, as a means of us standardizing the output that is our arbitrators, our stakeholders, and practitioners we produce. I think I've answered a part of that question. I invite Mwalimu to take up the next part.
Thank you, Director Onsare. Now, let me say something. Let me troop our colors a bit as the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya branch. We have done well. We have, I think we have topped the charts in literally everything, in number of fellows, in number of chartered arbitrators, in the number of appointments that are made for arbitrations in the world, not just here. And this logbook is a first in the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So we are basically trailblazing. And it is interesting that James Kwesiga is here because we've met before. We've discussed a bit of this. And now that we have the logbook and it is available to him, I think his next problem is whether a mentee can attend arbitral proceedings online subject to parties' consent. That is true, it can be done. The most productive mentorship, where we are now, technology is still improving, would require a few physical meetings. So yes, it is possible technically in terms of how ultimately beneficial it is. I think a physical meeting is always the best. We are finding many parties and advocates also preferring physical meetings because a lot of time gets lost in technical hitches when we are doing arbitration online. And I suppose even mentorship would suffer the same consequences. This is to be contrasted with areas that have really fine-tuned their technology, like where I have gone to school in the last several years, classes online, not a single glitch for how many years? Done for 5 years. Not a single glitch in technology. So as we head there, When you finally get your mentorship from a mentor in Kenya, prepare for a few cross-border excursions for physical meetings so that the experience is complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Thank you, Director Onsare. And maybe just to ease most of your minds, we've also had this culture, or at least now with the, as Mwalimu is saying, with the advancement in technology. We've had instances, and I think even Professor Gitu alluded to it during the public lecture on Friday, where even to manage costs, most arbitrators are choosing to do most of the preliminary things virtually and get to meet the parties for the first time at the hearing. We're not saying that this is the recommended or the ideal. I'm just saying in terms of how we've seen that becoming part of the practice. So you'll realize that not all instances require you to be physically present for mentorship to take place. You can then be able to get the link, log in, but still have that engagement with your mentor to ensure that that particular aspect or that particular phase has been addressed, whether or not you're there available physically or you're now engaging virtually. So that should not be a deterrent for you not to pursue, filling out of the logbook or learning from that particular experience just because it is virtual. Take advantage of it once it is made available. For those who are joining us across the border, the Mwalimu has indicated that CIArb Kenya has become a trailblazer. And I can tell you right now, on our panel of neutrals, we have people from Singapore, we have people from Nigeria, we have Ugandans, we have people from Ghana, I believe. We have people from Zambia. These are other CIArb members who have seen the work that CIArb Kenya is doing and have wanted to be part of our panel of neutrals. So we are hoping that the fact that we have the online version also takes care of them without necessarily having them go through the travel and incurring all those logistical costs. So make sure that you're able to relate, or at least you're able to disclose to your mentor that you're probably, coming in from a different jurisdiction so that they see how best to accommodate you during the whole learning process. Then finally, a question from Stella. Stella is asking, she's pursued both domestic arbitration and construction adjudication. Do you do two different mentorships? Mwalimu?
Yes, presently, yes, for purposes of practice. There is, however, an initiative that was hatched during our engagement with the global president last week, where the arbitrators of experience in construction, especially because that is where adjudication takes place, and also, of course, those others not construction professionals, but they have engaged in adjudication even through other routes like FIDIC, can be, once they are verified to have acquired the necessary skills, for example, through doing adjudications, not necessarily through the training, they can actually be given they can be listed, they can be empaneled as adjudicators. So as that process is happening, I think the holding answer for now is that because of the differences between the process of adjudication and the process of arbitration, you may have to take the two mentorships. After all, mentorship is not an academic course in a certain curriculum. It is really for your benefit. if you feel that you really want to be the best adjudicator that you can be, you may find it necessary to do adjudication mentorship, even though you believe you can still adjudicate because of your training. So there is the official position as it stands now, but there is also the personal position that really mentorship, like we said, is not rescue, it is refinement. And it all depends on how well you want to refine yourself going into adjudication and into arbitration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwalimu, and I think that marks the end of our questions that have been posed on the chat function. So I'd like to invite you to make the closing remarks. You can start with Director Onsare, then Mwalimu, and then I can just highlight a few of the activities that we have that are aligned with this mentorship initiative and what it is that we expect moving forward as a branch, and the relationship that you're trying to build and the value proposition we are trying to enhance for you as our members. So, Director Onsare, karibu.
Mine is to say thank you very much for making time to attend today. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. I hope we have provided the clarity you expected. I think it's very important that we embark on this journey together as an institute, both as the Secretariat, the directors, and also the members, to just understand what we're trying to achieve together. We invite again comments along the way. It is not a perfected product, it is a new product. If you feel you have ideas how best we can make it better, they're all welcomed. Please feel free to write to the Secretariat and let us know how we can do it. I believe I speak for myself and for the CEO and Mwalimu Nyagah that we all have to be a part of this. And we all have to be part of what intended program, which will deliver the desired results. Thank you very much, and look forward to meeting you down the road. Asante sana.
Thank you, Director Onsare. Mwalimu, karibu.
Thank you. I adopt everything that David Onsare has said and add that mentorship is about the mentee. It is the mentee who comes in to learn. The mentor has already learned in terms of the aims of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators to have as many members empaneled as possible. The mentor is already in the panel. So the initiative is that of the mentee. The identification of gaps to address is resident in the mentee. The interest to actually bring your body and the soul into mentorship is with the mentee. I'm reminded of that song. Unfortunately, I don't sing, but I get impressed by songs with a message. There is a lady, I don't remember who it is, who said that she will not give somebody her body if her heart is not in it. No, she said, I don't need your body if your heart is not in it. For us who do mentorship, and I see a number of them on the screen, we, and this is not very kind, but I have to say it, we do not need your body if your heart is not in it. We want to mentor mentees of good intention, mentees of good intention, mentees who are motivated and self-driven, so that we can be proud of having released somebody who is keen to scale the heights of arbitration into the market. It feels almost like cheating when somebody wants to walk through a revolving door in your office and get empaneled, and then they get arbitrations and they make the money. It is a service that arbitration is a service that is provided to business, and then payment comes as a byproduct of providing that service. And therefore, let's look at arbitration as the service it is. Let's understand to do good arbitration and to be of good service, then you really must be competent and you must be confident and you must really be able to move all the levers necessary to deliver that commercial justice. And you are not in it for the money. The money will find you, but please don't come in it for them. Your heart in it, and the mentors will be very, very happy to walk the journey with you. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Onsare, Dr. Provost. Thank you, all those who have attended today, and for staying on. I see we are still 76 strong. This is the kind of commitment that is required to come into mentorship, so that you stay the course, you learn, and then you go out there and provide premium service in arbitration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Thank you, Director Onsare, for those words of wisdom. One thing that we need to address is, when does this book come to effect, or when does this logbook come to effect? That's something that we need to clarify. So for those with existing mentorship, and especially those who've had from last year, you are free to take it up, or if the matter has so far progressed, it's okay. You can still use the old method that we used to have and have the letters of recommendation. But for those who are just starting, anyone that we've appointed within the last 1 or 2 months, then they can take the workbook. We will make it available. I know you've registered for this webinar. We'll make available the logbook, and you can start implementing it immediately. So that the logbook is taking effect immediately, and anyone who started or who we have appointed or who's been placed within mentorship within the last 1 or 2 months, then they can start using it. Now, this is just one of the initiatives that we have for mentorship. We've realized that people just need a platform, and we're trying as much as possible as an institute to ensure that we're continuously creating this platform for growth and development. So the mentorship logbook is one of them. We have another initiative that still addresses mentorship, and this is something that Mwalimu made or alluded to earlier in his presentation, the skills refinement workshop. So we've introduced the skills refinement workshop also to enhance, this is what Mwalimu referred to as the surgeries, to enhance the practical aspects of the arbitration processes. And we have one happening on the 5th of March, and this is on navigating preliminary applications in arbitration, where we'll have both Geoffrey Mende as well as Jomo Nyaribo, fellows of the Institute, taking us through that skills refinement activity for now. And we'll be having them every month. And this is mostly to ensure that whatever it is that you're learning in class, whatever it is that you're getting out of this mentorship, should you feel that there exist gaps that you still need help with, then the skills refinement workshops come into play. And we're making them extremely affordable so that we invite as many people as possible and not close out on anyone, because we realize that for the future of arbitration to really flourish, then competence and excellent competence has to be grounded on it. And the other thing that we're also doing is, I did mention that after mentorship, the next step for you in your path to getting onto the role of neutrals is the induction training. We have published the dates for the next induction training, which is going to take place on the 17th of April. This is for everyone who will have finished their mentorship program. They've done up to Module 2 for arbitration, and they've gotten their letters of recommendation and their logbooks are ready and signed. Then you can take up the induction training. Once you take up the induction training, then you can be enrolled on a panel of neutrals. And based on the board of directors' direction, or at least the chairman's direction, is that we are prioritizing, especially for the small matters that come in for appointment, we are prioritizing those who are just joining the role of neutrals to ensure that they are able to leverage on the experience they've gotten through mentorship, through the induction, through the skills refinement, and now they have hands-on experience by handling their own matters. Then, in addition to that, this year we are consciously ensuring that we're not only preparing our members for domestic arbitration or for domestic ADR market only, we are also setting our sights at a higher level and opening the scope or increasing the scope to international arbitration. And how is it that we're doing this? We have in the past partnered with institutions outside of Kenya to not only, number one, help build capacity within international arbitration, and case in point being the exit training that we have scheduled next month on international arbitration. Secondly, with organizations like the Hong Kong International Arbitration Center, where we are bringing you a tribunal secretary's training, because you've also realized that part of how you get to learn is by sitting as a tribunal secretary. And one of the negotiations we've done with that arrangement with Hong Kong International Arbitration Center is that once you have been trained in this particular training on tribunal secretary, is that you're also going to be listed as a tribunal secretary in their database, so that you also get access to international arbitration within HCIArb, that is the Hong Kong International Arbitration Center, where you get to sit as a tribunal secretary. So all the activities that we're doing or all engagements that we're doing, essentially they are to create a platform for you as a member to not only flourish within the local market, but also in the international market. The tribunal secretary's course is in May, so details of that will also be published within, I think, in the course of this week, or if not next week. So ensure that you take advantage of these platforms or these opportunities that we are curating for you, so that you get the building blocks of getting an internationally named practice as an arbitrator. We continue engaging with you on different platforms. Feel free to engage us on social media. We're available at any given particular point. Whenever you need us, we are there. And as Director Onsare has said, the logbook I've created is the first of its kind. So should you have feedback as to how best we can enhance it, we are very receptive to that, and we'll be hoping to hear from you so that we constantly and collectively enhance the practice of arbitration and ADR. I thank you. I'll take this opportunity to thank our facilitators, both Director Kithinji and Director Onsare, for taking us through this very critical assignment or this critical open day. These open days are platforms that we've also established to ensure that the information you hold at the secretariat or at the branch level is also easily and accessible to members, so that you're well aware as to what it is that you're signing up for. Thank you to our participants who stayed with us since we started, and thank you for continuing to engage with us on the different platforms and the different activities and engagements that we have. We thank you and we wish you a very good evening and a great week ahead. Asante sana. We have come to the end of this webinar.
Thank you. Asante sana.